Sometimes it takes what you experience firsthand that makes you want to make a difference for others. And one man set out after his retirement to do just that. Here to offer you some of that help is founder and president of Fourth Quarter Advisors, Jack Peregrine. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Good. I'm doing very well.
Good, excellent. I think our viewers are going to be fascinated to hear what you have to say. One of the things that I wanted to get onto very quickly was what happened with what you experienced when you were retiring.
The more I looked at it, the more uninformed I was, and I didn't recognize the complexities and the things that I should be doing that would be right for me in the long run, and there was nobody explaining them to me.
So then you made the transition into offering help and doing these kind of things for other people hitting retirement age. And one of the things you talk about is invisible money. Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm intentionally using a term that sounds kind of silly, but it's one that people remember. And it basically is future money. It's if we understand the right things we can do now as we're transitioning, we will end up in a better position in the future. And there are so many of those things. There are ways we can save on taxes, get more from Social Security than they wanted to pay us. There's a number of things that we can do if we understood what they were, and we would take advantage of them.
So obviously you're geared up to help people with what what we're labeling as invisible money. So what are some of the ways that people, when they're planning for their retirement, when they get their 401ks together, when they're getting everything labeled up, what are some of the biggest ways people can lose that potential invisible money?
Well, one of the ways is just in your 401ks. And basically, we don't have what we think we do in the 401k. We have an IOU to the state and federal government in that because we haven't paid taxes. And if we understood how we could reduce that IOU, we'll end up with more of our money by not paying as much in taxes.
So how can our viewers start capturing that invisible money starting, today?
There's no better way than to understand it and recognize that people aren't telling us everything we need to know. They don't look at our taxes because we rely on our advisors and the people that we're talking to today, and they're not helping us with that. Our CPA is dealing with this year and next year and not looking forward with it. Social Security is something completely different, and we're not optimizing the way we can claim Social Security because it's very, very complex and not many people understand it. So people lose money by not optimizing that as well. And there's another half dozen things that people could do, but they're not aware of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think they put their money aside every month from their paycheck and everything will take care of itself. So what are some of the common misconceptions that you see or common mistakes people are making by not preparing themselves or taking advantage of the kind of information that you're capable of showing them or sharing with them?
Well, one common one is that we assume that we'll pay less taxes when we retire. So we keep dumping money into our 401ks and IRAs and 403bs. And then we have to start taking the required distributions from our, the government requires them. And we assume that, that will keep us at a lower tax rate, but that's not necessarily true. In many cases, we find you'll actually be at a higher tax rate in the future. And one thing that always works is if you have to pay taxes, pay it when it's less, even if it's sooner, and you'll be better off in the long run.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Jack, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
You can learn more and see how Jack and his associates can help you by visiting fourthquarteradvisors.com.